Hello, welcome back to All For United WFC. We said on the preview that we'd hope we'd be sat here talking about a derby win. Did many believe it? Not many did. You know, when we were doing the predictions, not many United fans, you lot in the chat, some of you, there was not many people backing, but we did, and obviously got the win for the first time away at Manchester City. Toone is the first player to score a hat-trick, breaking all kinds of records. She's the first player to reach 10 appearances, first player to get a hat-trick, our first win at the Etihad. I think we're the first team to ever score 3 in the first half away at City as well. All the records were going yesterday. So get all your thoughts, your comments, and I'm sure there's going to be loads because it was one hell of a proper derby game. 6 goals. All it needed was a red card, and I feel like that would have been quite something. Let's quickly go around the panel, see how everyone's doing on this Monday. I think a few of us are flagging. It was a long night yesterday, I think, getting back and all that kind of thing. George, I'll start with you. How are you doing down there?
I'm doing really good. Nice to wake up on a Monday after a derby win. A little bit tired after the drive back, but would do it 100 times over to score 4 more at the Etihad, so couldn't have asked for too much more. But I'm doing good, thank you.
Glad to hear it, Charlie. How are you doing over there?
Oh, on top of the world. Absolutely delicious game yesterday, apart from the last 10 minutes of the first half. But if you blank that bit out, the rest of it was stunning. I think Sean's already put a message in the chat. Favourite message of the chat this is going to be. He didn't know if he was watching United or Brazil last night. Absolutely stunning, weren't they? Can't wait to get into this one, really.
Yeah, I think Sean texted me during the. I'm going to have to try and get this up, because I don't want to misquote you, Sean. Yeah, I think this was after we scored the third, and just messaged me saying you're going to win by 5 at this rate. Because yeah, I think we were all pretty much. I think I tweeted at 3-0, being like, "What on earth is going on?" Barry, how are you doing over there?
I'm doing all right, thank you. I think it was, listen, like Georgia says, you wake up in the morning, you've got the 3 points over City. You feel really pleased about that. You're in the top 3. Chelsea only 7 points away. You can see them in your sights, all of that sort of stuff. I think is no drama. I've got a horrible feeling I'm going to come across like Victor Meldrew at various points this evening, which could be very interesting to see what's going on. But no, I think in the grand scheme of things, as a United fan, you take it, don't you? 3 points, 4-2 win, hat-trick for Toone, who'd never scored before. Whatever you say, it seems to happen, doesn't it? Oh, Toone's never scored against City. She goes out there, bangs out 3. Oh, Chloe Kelly's not joining Man United. Oh, hello. So whatever you say ain't going to happen, it's going to happen.
I think someone tweeted me. It might have been Ella on Twitter actually said that I need to start putting polls out of things we want to happen, because it seems like at the moment whatever we're saying on these things is coming to fruition a little bit. A couple of the quick comments at the start. John's talking here about, while we're all waiting for comments to his smash like button, please do. That'll be greatly appreciated. And subscribe if you're new around here as well. Keris is blaming the panel here. Never get this sort of talking when I'm on the panel. Oh really, Keris? I seem to remember the last show you were on, we were a little bit late. So I'm not having that. And there's a couple of obviously comments a bit earlier on talking about Chloe Kelly as well. We'll cover that towards the end of the show because it's we'll get to that at the end. Let's not talk about that to start with. There's so many of your comments. I'll start a few of those in a second and come back to a few of those in a minute. Let's just quickly run through the lineup because obviously in hindsight we can all say it was a good line and we're really happy with it. I want to cast all of your minds back to when it first came out. And I'll start with you, Barry, on this one. Relatively happy with that. Obviously, we knew Jace was going to be away, so it was always going to be at least one change on the right hand side. Toone came back into the 11, same back 5 as we kind of expected. Was that the team? You were on the preview with me. I can't remember what team you said you wanted. Obviously, Grace was the other question mark in the midfield. Was that the team you wanted to see?
I don't know that I actually said what I wanted. I think we were all just trying to guess what Mark Skinner would do. I believe my exact words were, we'll wait and see what monstrosity he comes up with on this occasion. And actually, do you know what? I think when I looked at the squad, it didn't look too bad. I was quite content with it. It looked balanced. It looked like it had the ability to get forward and attack and also to defend. So if I'm being brutally honest, I kind of have to retract that statement. I can't disagree too much with what happened. You mentioned about Miyazawa deserving the chance and not just starting Grace, which we seem to think that he would do. And, he's justified insofar as they've gone out there, got the 3 points, got the win. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what side you pick. If they go out there and do that, then you're fully justified, aren't you? So, yeah, 10 out of 10. He's sat me down on that one, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'll probably say this throughout the show, and I think True's obviously already said it, that you got the lineup and the subs right for once. And I think, yeah, I think credit where it's due, I think, on that one, certainly from my point of view. George, I'm going to throw this over to you. Same kind of question about the lineup, but also this one. You didn't get the red shirt memo. I've just noticed that we're all wearing United shirts apart from yourself.
I will say I wasn't told about the red shirt memo. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't wear it the day after Derby Day, actually. That's my bad on that one. Next show, I'll have a United top on.
It'll be in blue for that one.
Yeah. I don't think I own a blue shirt, so I'll have to keep to red. But no, in terms of the lineup, when the lineup came out, I was happy with the team. Like Barry said, I think the team that he put out definitely had the ability to beat Man City, as we did. The only change maybe I would have had in my head was Anna Sandberg in for Gabby George, but that was a bit here nor there. But I thought the two fullbacks did really well attacking and then coming back. I thought the midfield looked really, probably the most balanced I've seen it look this season. Really glad that Hinny got her start. I think it's unbelievably deserving with the performances we've seen her put in. Bizet obviously coming in. We knew Jace wasn't going to be available. So that was sort of the natural swap on the right-hand side. And I thought she put in a really good performance. So in terms of the subs and the team, I was happy with what Skinner put out this time.
Yeah, I think Miyazawa was definitely the surprising one for me. I don't know whether, Charlie, you agree on that one. Because I just assume, because history would tell you with Mark Skinner, that usually a player like Grace comes straight back in. But credit to him, I'm actually happy that Miyazawa stayed in there.
Do you know what? I genuinely think that 2 or 3 times across the season where it's been Janssen and Miyazawa in the middle has been when we've looked the most balanced in midfield. Obviously, you tried, didn't you? I know Nelson's injured, but we tried Nelson and Janssen for a long time. It didn't work. They were always just trying to play the exact same role. And then it also never quite worked with Janssen and then Toone and Clinton. I genuinely think the best performance we've had have been when those two have been playing together in the middle, as far as I'm concerned. I was pleased about, obviously, the hand was forced a little bit with Jace, obviously, unfortunately, having to go back to Brazil because of the bereavement. But I think he got the wingers right. I think it was City were always going to have most of the ball, and they did. They just didn't do as much with it as we did when we had it in short stints. So I think you had to have players that were just going to be relentless in the run and do their defensive duties really well as wingers, because you look at the City lineup, and Firmino and Fowler, probably their best players on paper, I think, in that side. And they were the best players on the night, I think, by a country mile. They were the ones that only were causing us issues. So we needed Muzzy Bizzett and Leah Golson to do their bit defensively to support Jayde. And I think, like, I'm also like, in my head, I wanted to see Sandberg as well. So I'm kind of with George on that one, because the couple of cameos she's had, it's been really impressive. But I always in my head was caveating that with, it was like against West Brom for a bit. It was against maybe in another Conti Cup game for a bit. And you're not quite sure when they come up against those world-class wingers what's going to happen. And actually, and I know she came on later on in the game, but when Sandberg came on, I think she had a point to prove, and I think she did it really well. Created all sorts of issues for Firmino on the right-hand side. All of a sudden, they couldn't attack down there, because I think they realised early doors Jayde had the making of Mary Fowler, so a little bit more was going down the right-hand side. I think that's where their second goal came from. So I think that's a real positive now. And if I'm Anna Sandberg, I'm thinking, I reckon I should be starting on Sunday now after that.
She's definitely in contention. I think that's.
I'm not having a go at Gabby George, by the way. I'm not having a go at Gabby George. They're quite different players. I'm not having a go at her, but I'm saying Sandberg looks like the player that we're hoping she's going to be.
I think it's going to be really interesting, because we're going to come to this very, very briefly at the end. But I would expect the squad on Wednesday night to be very different. I would imagine Sandberg starts on Wednesday. So it'll be interesting to see how she does there, because City might be able to rotate, but they've not got the players to rotate anyway. So I don't know what kind of side City are going to put out on Wednesday. When we come back around to that one. Right, I want to talk about the first half, and just I want to kind of sum up the first half before we talk about some of the goals and the specific moments, but just how quick we started. And that kind of something we've not seen really since the first part of the season. Brighton away is probably the first half is probably the only other time I can remember us really pressing like this, in terms of a front four, essentially, with Toone obviously joining that the front three, and that kind of midfield two, and Miyazawa sitting slightly behind and pressing when she needs to. So Charlie, I'll start with you first in this one, in terms of just how good I guess we were, do you think, with our press, particularly in that first half, and going out and really going at them? Because Skinner spoke about attacking City in the pre-match press conference, and I don't think many believed him, if I'm being totally honest, because he said that a lot, and we've never seen it really. But this game, we kind of did. We allowed City to have the ball at the back and press them at the right times.
Yeah, it wasn't aimless, was it? It wasn't pressing anything and everything. But I think when you look at the players that City were missing, I think Alex Greenwood is the biggest loss there, because she plays through the press really well, and if you stand off her, she just dictates play. And also Kiara Keating had just come back into the side, just played her way back into the starting lineup, so it's always going to be a little bit iffy there. So I think we set up really, really well. I worried a little bit about our fitness levels. I think it told us a lot about our fitness levels. Lots of those players played 90 minutes when you've not got the ball a lot, and to be able to keep running like that is amazing. It was nice to see us press in such a way that Turland also got a little bit of joy out of it, because I think we'd also been, the press had just been, Queen Elizabeth, you just run at everyone on your own, which was just tiresome, wasn't it? It wasn't really, nothing was happening with it. But I think her, Muzzy Bizzett and Leah Galton and Ella Toone pressed really well. And then Miyazawa and Janssen pushed forward at the same time and just cut out those pockets of space behind. And I think again, another part of City's issue was Hasegawa couldn't dictate play how she usually would. And again, that was all to do with how we were setting up to stop their attacks. I think we did really well. And I'm not saying it was the best performance in the world, but they worked incredibly hard. And sometimes hard work will outdo the team that's maybe got the slightly better players, player for player. We just worked really hard. Everyone did their jobs really well. For 80 minutes, there was a 10-minute stint where we struggled, and we saw what City were capable of. But then in the second half, just tightened up on that, and then got a little bit of a foothold in the game again. But yeah, I thought the press was really good. Just pleased all round. I've got to be honest, I was one of those. I nearly for the predictions league went for like a 5-0 drubbing, like I did when we played Chelsea. I was sure that's what was going to happen. But I don't know. Yeah, it was just good. It worked really well. The tactic we went for. There was no point trying to monopolise possession. It just wasn't going to happen. So we played in a way that suited us against the team we were playing, which historically you could probably argue with Mark Skinner, and we've said we haven't done that. There's a plan A, and then there's nothing else. We'd clearly thought about what we were coming up against, which was good to see.
Yeah, and I want to throw the same question over to you, George, but also in kind of bringing in this comment that Ella's saying about why we don't press more often, because a lot of the criticism when we drew against Arsenal, we got battered for most of that game and kind of snatched a draw out of that, really. Chelsea, we didn't really do anything in that game and kind of just sat and let them do what they needed to do. Again, didn't really press. But in this one, we did. So two-part question in terms of how good you think the press was in the first half, but also why you don't think we've seen that too much, because we did it for the first couple of games of the season and then we just stopped for whatever reason.
Yeah, I was really happy with the press. I think similar to what Charlie said, in games gone past, it's, Turland's trying to press on her own, which, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get much luck from that. But yesterday we pressed forward as a team, and then, we picked up in the pockets of space. We were aggressive in the press. We were winning the ball back up in higher areas. We were putting so much pressure on City when they had the ball that you're making them make quick decisions. You're forcing mistakes. They haven't got time to think, and that's where we had our luck yesterday. And I say luck, you make your own luck with how hard you work. And again, like Charlie said, the girls worked their absolute socks off yesterday, and I think, we got what we deserved out of that game. In terms of, it's frustrating when you think back to the game like Arsenal, because we just didn't press. We weren't aggressive in it, and we were at home in that game as well, and we let them bring the game to us. Not 100% sure why. Sometimes I think we take a little bit, instead of anticipating the game first, we make the first move and we go forward. I feel like, especially in the Arsenal game, we sort of wanted to sit back for the first 5-10 minutes and figure out their play instead of just going for it. And then when you let yourself sort of get pinned back in your own half and you can't really keep on top of the ball, you know, it's easier said than done to then switch that around. And I think that is why we sort of ended up getting knocked and battered from pillar to post for the 90 minutes for that game. But, you know, fingers crossed now that, you know, we've shown that what we can do when we do press as a team going forward. You know, obviously we've got City midweek. Maybe the team will be slightly different in rotation wise, but then Brighton at the weekend, and then obviously we're away to Tottenham. If we can press and be as aggressive if we can press and be as aggressive as we were last night for a team like City, who are always going to dominate possession, you know, like Charlie said, there's no point. There would have been absolutely no point us turning up to the Etihad yesterday with a plan that involved us having 70% possession, because you're just never going to have it against a Man City team that play that way. So we stopped them playing their way and had tactics that let us play and stop them how we wanted to. So,
No, absolutely. I will just quickly say, obviously, the player of the match poll is in the chat. I know that there's going to be some people saying, why is this player not on? Why is this player not on? We can only pick 4. That's 4 we've gone for. 3 were, I think, pretty easy. And judging by the percentages already, I think you can tell which 3 that is. The 4th one could have been anyone, as Constantine said. Could have had 15 names on the poll, because everyone did their job pretty well yesterday. Barry, over to you then. Kind of final thing before we look at some of the individual goals and things like that. Yeah, just your thoughts really on the press itself. And I said, just Charlie said obviously that we worked harder than City, and I think that's kind of how it's summed up, because like, you can look at all the stats and even watching it in the ground, like we were never going to have all of the possession, and that's kind of how it looked. But we did enough with the ball when we had it, but also pressed as a team rather than just, like Charlie said, Toone running on our own or Toone running on our own, because I also, that's pointless. You're just wasting energy doing that. You've got to press together and at the right time.
You do. You know, the joy sort of came out of this a little bit more the more I looked back over the game and the statistics and looked at what we'd done and the goals, and I rewatched the highlights. I mean, I watched the whole game, but I rewatched the highlights a few times and went back over a few things. And I think there's so many really good attributes that have come out of what we've done. And the ladies have already mentioned all of the good stuff that there was in that match. So, you know, yes, the pressing was better. I mean, it couldn't get much worse in terms of not working as a team. So they needed to work how to do that. And it's good that it paid off on this occasion. So, you know, I think when we get to the goals and things, that'll be an important thing. But I just think that the overriding thing for me is that the goals that were scored were not good goals. Like, a lot of them are gifts. And don't get me wrong, this isn't me saying we shouldn't be celebrating. And, you know, at the end of the day, we've smashed City and it's all their own fault. So unlucky, you know, all that sort of stuff. But I'm not just here to be a fan. I'm here because I'm supposed to analyse these things and be fair and honest about it. And, I mean, if we don't get those, if we don't get them, like we could barely score against West Brom for 77 minutes. And we were battering them as well. And the same thing's happening here. Now, Ella Toone's done superb to get herself a hat-trick. And, you know, the goals were well taken and they were well timed as well. To get 3 goals, that's a really difficult thing for City to have to come back from. But, you know, it's the sort of language that's being used here. You know, oh, you're never going to do this against City. You're never going to do that. Well, why not? You know, this is what we're talking about. We're saying that Mark Skinner sat there and said we're going to be attacking. Afterwards, he had the absolute barefaced cheek to have a go at us as people saying we're a little bit harsh, to say that he's been passive. They had 672 passes. We had 240. I mean, how passive do you want to get? That's 3 times as many passes. You're letting them do it for. Now, don't get me wrong. Charlie was right earlier on. She mentioned the passes are happening a lot further back on the pitch. But 74% and 26% in terms of the percentages. They had 22 shots. We had 12. Only 5 of ours were on target. And 4 of them were goals. And when you look at those 4 goals, you think to yourself, that's only one effort that was necessarily a good one. Clear-cut chances, we had 6 of them, but we only had 5 shots on target. Where we excelled, I think, was our general control and our limiting of their chances to being good ones. More tackles, more aerial duels, and, of course, Fallon tullis-joyce being as superb as she is in goal. Because it could very well have been equal going into half time, which would have been an absolute, well, could you imagine 3-0 up against him? Be worse than when we were beating Chelsea 2-0 and ended up losing 4-2. So I feel hesitant because, yes, it's joyful and everything's great, but I don't know that a huge amount has changed. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of where I am. So I kind of feel muted. And that's why I said I'm going to be a bit Victor Meldrew today, because it's bloody brilliant because we've smashed him. And obviously I'm delighted about that. But as you look at it and analyse it, is it a step forward, or was it just a case of the fact that they didn't have a team as strong as they would usually have, and we've just taken advantage of that, and the fact their goalkeeper was absolutely pony?
I think both things can be true, to be honest. I came away from the ground. The first thing I said to the likes of Georgia and Keris, who I met after the game, was I don't think we were that good. But in a game like that, I walk away and think I don't really care how we play, just get the win at any cost, because particularly where the table is at the moment, I think, to be honest, the points were just way more important than anything else. I do agree with you that like I said, that's the first thing I said when I walked away from the ground. I don't think we were that good. I just think City were bad, to be honest. We forced them into
when we argue
that,
if we sit there and just narrowly beat a Brighton, or we just narrowly beat a West Ham, people whinge about it. So, and it's the same thing. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that the performance isn't any different to any of the other games that we won this season that people were not so excited about. The only joyful thing about this is it's City, and who doesn't love to see City suffer?
No, and to be fair, you mentioned obviously going in. Do you know what? I'm going to do that first. I want to get that out of the way, really, in terms of what on earth happened when we went 3-0 up to go back to 3-2, because I can't lie to you, I was ready to delete a little tweet of mine that I said that we were on a title charge at 3-0. Literally a minute later, it was 3-1, and then 5 minutes later, it was 3-2. I was thinking, oh my, no. Like, what have I done? I could see the bookmarks going up on that tweet, and I was thinking, oh my life, what have I done? So I thought I'd jinxed it, and I had a lot of people blaming me for that. But obviously we didn't. But who haven't I? George, I'll start with you then first. In terms of what do you think, before we're going to get back to the United goals in a second, but what do you think went wrong to concede 2? Because it very nearly got a bit ugly. They scored the second, and then they were pushing on the door, really, to get a third as well towards half time. I think I said to the guys next to me, just get in at half time now, just anything, whack it out of play every so often if you have to, just kill the game off. What do you think it was? Because I said 3-0, I felt comfortable, and then 15 minutes later, game on again.
Yeah, it definitely didn't feel comfortable going into half time. When that second one, when they made it 3-2, I thought, I had my head in my hands. I was like, surely not. Surely we haven't gone 3-0 up in the derby to blow it. But, luckily we didn't, and we did work harder. But I think, we conceded the first one, and really what we should have done then was calm down, reset, and keep doing what we do. And what we did instead is we let City carry on their momentum. And, as Barry said, they're not good goals, both City goals. They all count for the same, don't get me wrong. But when we're looking at, from our point, conceding them, some goals you just have to say, well, hell of a strike, what an effort. But this wasn't the case when they were both very avoidable, whether that be positioning from anyone along, the back line or in mate. What I'm trying to say is that both goals were very unavoidable to me. I thought they were in the ground, and then when I've watched the highlights back this morning, they really are. And it's things like that where not that we were close to throwing the game, because we came back out, did what we needed to do second half, and got ourselves another buffer. But City on another day will punish you and go 3-0, which then throws all of our hard work out the window. But I think being defensively aware, the positioning, I think, from both Millie and Maya for the first goal was poor, which I didn't quite notice in the ground. But when I watched it back, I would probably put the positioning on them. And then, potentially Fallon could have been in a better position as well. But, she hardly puts a foot wrong for us. So.
Yeah, I think that's... And Charlie, I'll come to you with this one, because I feel like... I think we were talking about this backstage. I feel like that's probably Fallon's first mistake in a United shirt, for me, and honest. I think the second one, albeit you can say someone's got to clear the header, I think Fallon's too far across. And obviously where the header goes in, it's pretty central. I think she's just then can't get across. The first one, George has mentioned Millie and Mayer, but what do you think we could have done differently to stop that from happening? Because as I said, you concede one, it goes to 3-1. That was probably going to happen. I did feel City would score at some point. But then to concede again, and then City to have as many chances they did just before half-time, it did feel like, I don't know, I felt like we panicked a little bit and thought, oh no, and we couldn't get a grip then of the game again.
It felt like a lack of concentration for me. The first one, Millie, it felt like she was ball watching, wasn't thinking about where the ball was, but also at the same time wasn't really thinking about where the player was. So let Miedemar get the wrong side of her, and that was difficult for Fallon. The first one, the second one, was just frustrating because, and I know we've mentioned Fallon's position for that one. I think she's been faultless all season, so perhaps when she makes a bit of an error, it's more glaringly obvious than a goalkeeper that makes mistakes all of the time. But I just think for the, was it Knack? It said Knack. I think she basically had a free header. She was barely being challenged, and we had 2 or 3 players around her. So that's where no one just took responsibility for that. Just knock her off balance, lean into her. But there was nothing. And their 2 goals were too easy. And after that, I think we were shaken. I think you could feel it from the crowd as well, which was majority United. Not a good showing from the home fans at all. It was absolutely bizarre. They had more strobe lights than they did fans in the ground. Apart from one fella. There was one fella flipping us the bird. But apart from that, everyone else is sat there doing nothing. But yeah, it was a lack of concentration, I think. And we've said when you lose concentration, particularly with the game that we were playing, which was having very little of the ball, having to concentrate, having to think about when to trigger the press, having to track back. When you lose concentration for a moment against a side that has Vivian Miedemar leading the line, she's going to take a chance. And again, that's something that we don't quite do yet. When we have opportunities, we don't necessarily take them as well as we should do. So yeah, it was disappointing and things to work on. And you can't mask that.
No, I tend to agree. We'll quote that. So put it in one of those like speech things, and put it out there as Charlie's quote of the show, or something like that. Barry, same kind of question to yourself then, in terms of what we think went a little bit wrong, really, to go in. Because I said, for me, conceding 1's fine, but conceding 2 and in the manner that we did to then just almost give up the game. Obviously, we'll come to the second half and what happened there in a little bit, but yeah, were you worried a little bit at 3-2 that it was kind of just almost hanging on towards the end of the half, when 10 minutes prior to that, 3-0 up, you're going in completely different story?
Well, I think the first thing to go with there is that at 2-0, we have to recognise the fact that City were starting to gain a bit more of a foothold into the game then. They were starting to look like they were going to be a little bit more of an attacking side. And then obviously we got the third goal, which just knocked the stuffing out of them for a little bit. But they then did start to attack. And this is what I'm getting at 3-0. And this is part of the reason why I was so hacked off at the end. At 3-0, this is where we shouldn't be sitting here talking about possession stats of 74 and 26. If you genuinely want to be a top team, you're the one that now should be doing that. We should be making them chase the game. We should be passing the ball around, making them run. Instead, we're still letting them have the ball. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why 3-0, like it's not 2-0, it's not 1-0, it's 3-0. It's a 3-goal lead against Manchester City, who are not performing to their level. Why would you give them the ball and still invite them on when you know that they've got players like Miedemar? They've got players that can cause you problems. I don't understand, when you've been gifted that level of a lead, why we didn't do that. So that's annoyed me, as you can probably tell. But in terms of the actual side of what happened, look, Gabby George was inches, centimetres away from getting her foot to that cross. But at the end of the day, she shifted the ball just that tiny little bit to the right, giving her the opportunity to whip that cross in. Millie Turner's 1,000,001 brilliant things, but she's not always the strongest in terms of strength. And that's what was breathing. Miedemar was an absolute beast. And she literally extends her neck a little bit further forward than Millie Turner does. She wanted it more. and Miyazawa got the ball, and that was it. It was a goal. I mean, was it the first one or the corner that you were whinging about for Fallon?
It was the second one, the corner, the looping header. I think it was Nat, wasn't it? That scored the second.
So I mean, the first one wasn't much you could do about that anyway. The second one, I'd be frustrated first of all at the fact that the corner was given away in the first place. They have more corners than us as well, but beyond that, it's gone so deep. It's gone deep to the corner of the 6-yard box, and the people that were there were I don't know what that was. It would be
Me.
That wasn't even a dog. That's not 7:45. God knows what's going on. But the two people that were at that corner and at the far post in that respect were Dom Janssen and Leah Galton. Jayde Riviere had a superb match, but who is supposed to be on that far post, and why have two people been able to allow another person to beat them for the header? So I think really, direct from a corner wasn't ideal. So I think at that point we just sort of let it all go wrong. But if you're honestly wondering what it was, I blame Amy Goodrum from Stevenage, because we were watching the game and she was texting me, and at 3-0 she went, Manchester is red, Barry. And that was a dangerous thing to do, because within minutes they scored the 2 goals, and I just went, what have you done? Why would you do that? Just leave it till full time. What's your name? Connor. So it was a bit of a dodgy one. So there's little things. You're never going to play an entire game of football without giving up chances. That just doesn't happen. But I do think that for me, at 3-0, which I think for all of us was an unexpected lead, we absolutely have to take more control of the ball and of the game if you genuinely want to be in the conversation about being a top side in the WSL.
Do you think I felt one of our biggest issues in the game was dealing with Miyazawa? It felt like they were playing the ball into her a lot. She was coming quite deep at times to pick it up, and then she was just rolling. I can't remember if it was Mayo or Millie or both. Time and time again, they were trying to get quite tight to her, and she was just rolling around them and beating them every time. And I was maybe looking for something to change to do with that in the second half, and it didn't really. I thought you maybe leave the centre backs a little bit deeper and get Janssen sat on her, perhaps, if she's coming so deep. So you've got backup if she does turn her. And I was relieved when she went off. I was surprised that Gareth Taylor did that. I thought that was bizarre. But yeah, that was the only thing for me where we set up differently for this game, and it ended up working out well. But you still, like when we talk about the fact that those things, so Miyazawa having so much success dropping deep, and our centre backs following her and then being left for dead, we didn't change that all game. And there's just things like that where you think, we still need to react to things like that. So minor tweaks need to be made in game management to deal with those things a little bit better, I would think.
I mean, Miyazawa is world class.
Yes.
There's no getting away from that. She is an unbelievable. I mean, how Arsenal got rid of her, I've just got no clue, really. Clearly, Jonas was feeling a little bit vindictive at that point, and just thought, I know how we can make the club worse, because she's unreal, and she's got great experience that, to be fair, May is still, getting. We forget how young sometimes she is. I know she's played a lot of games, but not as many as Viv. So, I think you're right. And again, it's those little tweaks, those little things of managing the game for the situation you're in, not the one you think you're going to be in. We may have thought we were going to be 1-0 up, in which case you continue with that game plan. But I just feel like we should have looked a little bit deeper into what we could have done with the opportunity that presented itself, because I genuinely think we could have had. I mean, you said about Sean saying it could have been 5-0. Could have been. And at 3-0, even I'm sitting there thinking, bloody hell, this is going to be an absolute rout. We're going to turn City over because they've got nothing.
It's funny that I don't think I can repeat what Georgia texted me, but the contrast in messages from the third goal to the City second. I definitely can't repeat what that second was said on here, but it was so different in terms of what those two said. But yeah, I think that's it. I knew we were going to win the game as soon as Viv went off, to be honest. As soon as she got subbed, I think I turned to Ella next to me and said, I'm feeling all right now. You know, that's the goal threat gone. I didn't feel like City really, although they had chances towards the end, I felt like we were pretty good at containing those as well. All right, I want to talk a little bit about, because I know Keris has already I was going to do this at the end, Keris, but there we go. There is going to be another show tomorrow talking a little bit more about the tactical side of the game as well. So we are going to talk a little bit about Viv in terms of how United can deal with that a little bit better, potentially on Wednesday, if obviously Viv is playing there as well. And also, Keris has mentioned this. Can we talk about Connor's tweet? And I've mentioned this a couple of times. I did tweet those in my exact words. And then they scored twice. And yeah, so I wouldn't have... I don't think I'd have forgiven myself if we'd have gone on to lose.
The key thing is, why did you not tweet that at 4-2 when we've won?
Because, I don't know, the mood felt different at 3-0 than it did at full time. At 3-0, it was like a party. At 4, when the whistle went, it was just like, thank God that's over. Like, it was completely different. So your point is very valid in terms of, you know, the way we felt in terms of the game itself, because that's kind of how it translated into the ground as well. Like I said, 3-0 and 4-2, the atmosphere was totally different. Title 2 goal. Who knows? We're still in all three. I'm glad you didn't. I think I could got a bit of selling off if not. Anyway, right. I want to get to some of the goals. What I'm going to do, I'm going to incorporate Ella Toone's hat trick all in one, because I feel like I want to talk about all of these kind of in one thing. I missed the third goal. As did someone in the chat. I won't see if they want to say whether they did or not.
Signing autographs again.
Oh yeah, got to be done. No, of course I wasn't. But yeah, so I actually missed the third one. I had to go in there, and I was walking past people going, "I can't believe I've missed this." Like, who scored Toone hat trick? As if. Anyway, but Charlie, I'll come to you first then on this one in terms of Ella Toone's overall performance. I guess obviously getting a hat trick, first player to do that in WSL against. In this fixture, a game that she previously, before today, she'd never scored in. Before yesterday, she'd never scored in this fixture. Yeah, what did you make of her overall and her individual goals? You know, kind of because again, you could say that we've gifted them. I think a couple of them are forced. The third one's definitely the second one. Our third goal is definitely a forced one with Bizet. What did you make of all three goals and just her overall, I guess, performance in the game?
It was lovely to see her back to something resembling her best, and looking like she enjoyed her football. Sort of being thrown back in at the deep end, isn't it? Your first league game back after quite a substantial, lengthy period of time off, to come and put in the performance that she did was really good. I think she was helped by the two midfielders behind her. I think that worked really well for her. I loved the first goal just for the build-up of it. I loved Miyazawa's little cheeky over the head jink on Hasegawa. That was a good battle that was in the middle. I really enjoyed that. And then Turland working really hard to get something on the ball ahead of the centre back, which allowed Toone to run on and then just pop it over. And I loved that it was that defender that was on her backside, sliding into the net, trying desperately to try and stop it going in, which was lovely. Yeah, Toone knee slide at the Etihad, nothing better. The second one, I didn't see her second goal because I'd taken Evelyn to the toilet. So we heard it and we came running out. So I'm trying to even remember what that one was. That was Muzzy Bizet, wasn't it?
Yeah, the pressure.
Yeah, it was the pressure, and that was bizarre. That was the weirdest one ever, I think, because so I remember it now. So a lot of people blaming Keating for Toone's second goal, but I've got to say that City player literally dropped deep and was calling for the ball. Now, yes, Keating should have looked up and seen that Muzzy Bizet was chasing after her or whatever, but that City player, to not have any awareness that literally Muzzy Bizet was pretty much attached to her like a limpet, was absolutely nuts. But again, good anticipation, just pressing really high up and forcing the issue. And I like that because that's what we were trying to do. And the third one was absolute hilarious scenes. Love that. But again, the mentality of, because Toone's not the quickest player, and she could have just let it dribble away, roll away, but she properly went for it. And I think I said to you, I think we've scored. I loved Turland for that. We've scored a goal. Was it against Spurs that was similar? It was from our kickoff though, and we played the ball I think, to their centre-backs. We played the long ball over the top, didn't we, from our kick-off against Spurs, and then Turlen closed that down and it resulted in a goal. But I loved that. I thought it was hilarious. There's nothing funnier than an opposition goalkeeper, like flipping Roadrunner, running for their life, going absolutely nowhere. But again, that felt like it took ages, but that was brilliant as well. And got the knee slide. I loved that that one was right in front of the away fans. That was perfect. And just one of those ones that I've watched about 50 times. But yeah, they were all really weird goals. There were 2 really weird goals, one that was really good technique. But she anticipated it. She was there. And when you press a team really, really well, you force those errors. You make your own luck. And if we're not pressing and we're not forcing the issue, the second goal doesn't happen, does it at all? And if you don't hold your position high up against Keating, who's a million miles out of her box with a third one, you're not in a position to then capitalise on it. Because if Turlen blocks that and Toone is not anticipating it, it comes to nothing. So again, I think it's good play, even though it looks comical.
I think as well, I've got a story for each goal already, but the second Toone one, our third one, I was too busy annoyed at Turlen for missing the chance that led to that one, obviously, because it was a goal kick. Because the ball came to Turlen on the edge and she skied it by quite a mile. I'm like, I was so annoyed at her for missing that chance that I was too busy. I was tweeting at the time, Turlen needs to do better there. And then look up and we'd scored. As you said, obviously, the pressure from the goal kick. So I technically missed 2 goals being in the ground there, but there we go. Georgia, over to you, Ella Toone. We've kind of spoken about this for, kind of off camera that, before she got injured, that she, needed that kind of breakaway and everything else. How good do you think she's been? Firstly, obviously, since she's been back, obviously this game in particular, and just her goals. Because Charlie said there, it's all very well good pressing, but you've got to make something of it, when you get to that point as well.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's so good to have Toone back in the side and looking happy within herself on the pitch and looking like she's really enjoying her football. We hear players say it all the time. When you're happy and enjoying your football, you're playing your best football. And I think certainly a hat-trick at the Etihad is some way to come out and prove that. But no, like Charlie said, it's all well and good if we press that high up the pitch, but we have to make something of it. Otherwise, there really is no point. And we did, whether that came from like Turland and Toone pressing at the same time. Turland then, I think for Toone's hat-trick, it might have hit her in the head, or I know she went down for a little bit. I was a little bit distracted onto what had actually happened with Turland there, but Toone's anticipating it and, is in a foot race with Keating and manages to get there just ahead of her and, scored again. For the Toone's second one, sorry, I've gone the wrong order here. I've started with the last one, but in Toone's second one, again, positions are high on the pitch. The Man City centre-back has got absolutely no idea that she's being pressed, no spatial awareness on the ball whatsoever. Toone's there, simple finish, but we're in the right places and we're taking our chances. Should Keating have passed to the ball? Maybe not, but it's not our problem. We're going the other way. And then, for the first one, Miyazawa's little flick over the top was lovely. And, I'm glad that Charlie highlighted that. But, for Turlen's working hard, manages to get something, may it be a missed kick or not, it doesn't really matter. They all count as assists and they all count as a goal, to knock it into the path of Toone, and, Toone finishes it lovely. And I think what stood out for me yesterday, Toone, is that she worked really hard, which is so important, her work rate. She didn't stop running. She obviously hasn't been long back from injury. She come on in the West Brom game, scored that stunner, which, Connor, you got a very nice video of. But no, really good to have her back. And hopefully, as Charlie said, we're starting to see again how we've all seen Toone at her best. We know the player she is, and she is an incredible player. So hopefully we're getting her back to that, and what a way to start.
No, absolutely. And Barry, same kind of questions for yourself. I think it's while Charlie and Georgia have been talking to me, I've just kind of thought about, obviously it's great for us as fans, we want to see her score and everything else, but I think more importantly, actually watching her actually enjoying playing again. Obviously she spoke about this post-game, because we'd kind of questioned a little bit whether she was actually enjoying play. She didn't look very happy on the pitch. She, wouldn't, as Mayor just put in the chat, great to see her smiling. She actually looks like the Toone we know that she is. The talent's never been in doubt. It was just that kind of dip in form the last you could argue maybe last 12 months or so, and even in those 12 months, she scored at Wembley, you know, in the final, scored that brilliant goal at Leicester and everything else. So even amongst a bad run of form, really, she's scored unbelievable goals for us. How important do you think that's going to be? You know, the fact that she's enjoying it again.
Absolutely. I mean, look, let's be honest. Ella Toone was just out of energy, out of sync. She wasn't the Ella Toone that we all knew and loved. And we've said this time and again. No one ever doubted the skill and the ability of Ella Toone. We always knew that she also had, even at her worst, we all know that she's got the ability to just have a magic moment that can turn a game on its head. So that was never ever the issue. But what you're seeing in these last two games is Ella Toone, the one that we're used to seeing, the one that was a European Championship winner with England. You know, this is the sort of person we're looking at, someone who can take a game by the scruff of the neck. And Georgia was spot on with what she said about the work rate. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing an Ella Toone that is back to full fitness, isn't tired, and is ready to go for it. And it's going to be really important, actually. And this is where I think Grace Clinton, and if we'd had her, Emma Watson, would have really come into their own there, because you've got to look after her now. We can't just be playing her for 95 minutes every single week, so she's absolutely knackered all the time. We need to be making sure that she's playing 60, 70 minutes and then making the right sort of changes to give the other players the opportunity as much as to give Ella Toone the rest. And Vic's completely correct with what she said there. I think when you go to her goals, the best thing you can say about it is just that she was in the right place, right time. And as Charlie has mentioned as well, it is about the pressing and the ability to force the mistake. And when you force a mistake, you've then got to punish it. And that's what we did in this game. And that's absolutely the positive that came out of the game was the full amount of effort that went in and the way that we punish their mistakes. And ordinarily, we don't always do that. We don't always punish the mistakes of other teams, and we end up, not winning. Let's be absolutely clear, though. Miyazawa was the star of that first goal. Absolutely brilliant. That little flick over there. That's the sort of thing I used to do in my prime all the time. Just flick it over players. I'm joking. I'm crap. But she was superb. Knocked it right over the back. And the ball through for the Queen was superb. But the Queen fluffed her lines. Because if anybody's watching that properly, she's trying to stick that top ins. And she absolutely shanks it. And it's the best shank I think we've ever seen in our life, because who's on the end of it? Ella Toone. And then after that, comedy of errors, the ball's just over the goalkeeper, over Keating, and just bounce. And all they could do was, I love it when a defender can only slide the ball in the back of the net. That's, for me, the ultimate insult, because they couldn't do anything more. You might as well just go up to them with the ball and just slap them around the face with a cold goalkeeper's glove. Like, you cannot beat me. Be very Monty Python, that one. So, first goal, brilliant. The second one, yeah, let's be honest, Keating did not do well at all with that one. You're right. She should be looking up. The defender also should be aware of their surroundings. 100% there from Charlie. But that's all about Celine. Again, just superb chasing down. And the fact that Ella Toone happened to be the furthest player forward, because the alternative to that is that Celine wins the ball and Keating just kicks it and clears it because there's nobody there to collect it. But Ella Toone's there in the right position, and into the back of the net it goes. Wasn't offside because it was being played on by, I've never seen 3 defenders so deep in my life. That was absolutely mad. So for me, brilliant goal. And then when you get to your third one, for me, probably the best goal of the game, purely because we're 3-2 up. We've just come off the back of City feeling probably quite good. They've just been told, by the gaffer, you've got to go out there, win the ball, really start with the same energy that you ended that last half, girls. You're going to go out there. We're only a goal away from 3, or you're going to absolutely smash them. And Ella Toone's gone, hold on a second, hold my beer, along with Liz Turland. And between the two of them, they've won the game for us, because that run was superb. Keating's touch is heavy. That's not a good one from her. She's always chasing after the ball from that point. She just tries to clear it. She's doing the best that she can, because she knows she's absolutely that there's a guy on the TikTok and all that sort of stuff called Aussie Man Reviews, and if you ever watched it, that She knew she'd arrived at destination, and I'll let you fill in the second word, but it's not good. And yeah, that's where she was. She smacked the ball against Ireland. Ella Toone, it's so good. It was just after half time, because at that point she sat there going full of life. She's not had to run anything at that point. If you do that, 20 minutes later, I don't know that she'd have been quite so speedy, but she's beaten the young whippersnapper Keaton. And perfect rolls the ball in 4-2. So for me, that's absolutely superb. But what I'd also noticed, having had a little watch through the old TikTok, is you talk about how happy she was playing football. She came off. She's smiling, high-fiving everyone. She's like, woo, look at me. I've just got a hat-trick. We're smashing City. Have some of that. And the minute that happens, Mark Skinner walks up to her and she goes for the high-five, still smiling. And then the absolute muppet starts talking to her. Now, I don't know what he's got to say. And to be fair, he's the manager. And if he's got a tactical thing he wants to give to her, that's fine. But that's not the time to do it. She's coming off to the absolute applause of everyone. And I don't know what he said, but you watch that thing, all of the joy in that interaction drains from her. And all of a sudden, she's just like she's being told off. If Mark Skinner is telling her off, having come off of the pitch after scoring a hat-trick and being in all of those right places, then quite frankly, do you know what? It's unreal. I'm hoping, just from what you heard, because otherwise she's going to be very upset. But I don't get it. I don't get why you would feel the need. And to be fair to the girls, when she gets back up into the seats, they sort of pull her back round again and cheer up a bit. And Rachel Williams is there to give her a massive hug, as only Rachel Williams. I reckon a Rachel Williams hug must be the best type of hug you can get. I don't reckon she goes half-hearted for one of them. So I'm really annoyed with Mark Skinner for coming. That's the thing you do in the dressing room. If you've got something you want to say it to them then. But to completely rob a woman who's had one of the hardest periods of her life and has come off of the back of a pitch there where she knows she's just won her team 3 points, to just pull that joy, I thought was cruel, actually.
Yeah, I didn't know whether I was going to mention it, because it did get mentioned in the chat quite a few times a bit earlier on, and I've seen it around Twitter, and obviously I know it's caused a lot of debate because a lot of people comparing it to Pep Guardiola. Guardiola's well known for doing that. Haaland, I think, scored 4, and Pep obviously did exactly the same thing. For me, it's a little bit. It's almost like for the cameras. It's almost just like, look at me, I can manage a team, and it's just like. I wasn't a fan of it, to be honest, because like you said, you see Ella coming off, she's really happy, and you can see it. Everyone's probably seen the video. The joy is just gone, and it's like the only bit of interaction I could lip read is him saying, "Never mind that," and then says something else. So I don't know what it was, and he probably did notice something that that she needed to do in the game. But like you said, that's not for them. Leave that to the tactical debrief or something like that you do in the game. It doesn't need to be said there. Yeah, it just wasn't I wasn't a fan of it either. And we noticed that in the ground. I think I can't remember who it was that was next to me. Someone said that at the time, because it was almost just like, what? Just let her sit down, let her enjoy that moment. And I think it's no issue with him doing it, just not then and there. Do that after the game. Even after the game, I think it's fine. If you want to pull her after the game, just be like, by the way, I noticed this in the game today and something else. Just not when she's just come off the pitch. It's just, no, I'm not a fan of it either, personally, on that one. And I don't think anyone is, to be honest, looking at a lot of the online reaction as well. And yeah, James is right. That clip on Twitter is on about 3 million views, I think, at the moment, or something like that. So it's certainly done the rounds. Yeah. It's on a lot. Very quick, so I do want to talk about a couple of other individual players that are on the player of the match poll as well. We've got quite a lot to cover. We're already up to 54 minutes here. I wanted to quickly mention, because Ema said earlier on, Leah Galton scored in a Manchester derby and no one's going to remember it, because obviously Toone gets the hat-trick, we won't get our first ever win, and no one's really talking about the Galton goal. I will say, for the fairness of these things, it is offside. I will say that quietly, because I don't want any City fans clipping that up and taking joy of it, but it probably is. Well, no, there's no probably about it. It is. And I think if VAR's in there, it probably does get ruled out. But, we take... Oh, there we go. James is correct. At 5.5, it's now... So, there we go. So it's certainly got a bit viral.
2 million of them might be me trying to work out what he actually says on lip reading.
But have we got anything to say on Leah's goal itself? Because I can't lie, obviously, from where we were at the other end of the ground, I couldn't really work out what had happened until I watched it back when we got out, because it looked again a bit scruffy, but she's there. She's in the right position.
Yeah, anticipatory. Fine, easy. And also, might have been offside, but one of their goals, basically one of their players, was absolutely impeding Fallon tullis-joyce. So if we're going to take a goal off both of them, actually, you know, that's the equivalent to still getting 3 points on our predictions league, because you're still winning by the same margin, isn't it, Barry? So who cares? We've been on the receiving end of some dreadful officiating decisions. So
I actually tweeted it was offside, possibly.
what?
Um,
It wasn't massively though, was it? It wasn't like it was marginal.
I'm not convinced it was. I think it may have come off of the City defender. You can't see it, and unfortunately, Connor wasn't that end of the pitch taking video footage that would have made it absolutely clear what was going on. So as a result of that, we can only go by what's actually on the official televisual screens. And either way, I don't particularly care. Like, to be honest, beating them with an offside goal just made me feel a little bit better about it. Actually, there was no part of me that felt sorry for them, but I completely agree with what Charlie said at the end of the first half. You know, there was a shout. They did say, "Oh, you could argue that she was impeding." Well, brilliant. If you could argue that, and we'll just say. And I tweeted that. That's even. Lovely. Job done. Next, 3-2. Let's see how we end up.
George, anything to add on that before we move on to just a couple of the players?
I think that summed it up pretty well, to be fair. Don't really care if it was offside or not. Still counted as a goal against City, and if they were that worried about it, they would have cleared their lines better, but they didn't. So, and Leah was
exactly. And actually, if Toone does get anything on that, that's incredible, because again, if you watch it back, she's basically surrounded by City players. One of them could have got rid of it, and they didn't.
And actually, you could also argue that the only reason that Fallon's line of sight is impeded is because of where she was stood for the corner.
Yeah, and I think Keris makes a good point. Nobody, I'm glad to
No,
know that.
they don't.
None of them did. And you know, to be fair, my one of my mates is a City fan, and the first thing she said was, "Yeah, it's offside, but I don't care. We're defending dreadfully." And I think most City fans I spoke to, but I say most, two that I spoke to after the game, didn't really care that it was offside, because they were just so annoyed at how the team had defended anyway. That it was just almost like, well, we'll just deserve it. So.
Genuinely, Mara, apart from the giggles, watch it back. I do think it comes off of a City defender.
It's close, isn't it? It's hard to tell because of where the angle of the cameras are. You can't really tell. If it comes off a United player, she's offside. I'm not doubting that.
Oh, do you know what though? As glad as I am that it wasn't given offside, I would be the equivalent levels of furious if someone scored it against us. But that's all part of being a football fan, isn't it?
Exactly. It swings and roundabouts. You're going to get decisions. I always say this, in a league season, you're going to get decisions for you and against you, and it usually evens out as you get to the end of the season anyway, because every team gets that. Right, I want to come to a couple of players that are on the player of the match poll. Georgia, I'll come to you first with Jayde Riviere, because, spoiler alert, that's my player of the match, because I thought she was unbelievable at right back. I think Charlie said this earlier, that City's best players were their wingers, so our fullbacks needed to be on it, really, to stop them. How good do you think she was in this particular game and dealing with that City attack down their left, our right-hand side?
It was the first thing I said when the whistle went. That was a phenomenal performance from Jayde, and I drove home counting my blessings that we've just tied her down to a new long-term deal. She was phenomenal up and down the right. You know, she quite literally had Mary Fowler in her pocket. She was getting absolutely no change out of her. You know, aerial Jules was all over it. Her carries, you know, just keeping such control. And, you know, Celine as well on the right, who was coming back to help defend for the overlap when they were shoving two up. I thought, yeah, exactly. Jayde was immense yesterday. She's just a joy to watch. You know, we are a better Man United when Jayde is on the pitch. Defensively and going forward down that right hand side, I have no doubt about it. She, you know, the attacking prowess down the right, I think with Celine anyway, you know, whether it's Celine or Jace on the right, is so much better when we have Jayde behind her. And I just think sometimes I forget sometimes that, you know, how young Jayde is, and we speak about when Honor first came to play to us. I think Jayde's ceiling is, this might be quite a big statement, don't want to put too much pressure on her, but I think Jayde's ceiling is much higher than Honor's. I think Jayde has the potential to be the best right back in the world. 100%. I know, big
I
statement.
would have actually just summed up the whole Jayde Riviere performance with the words "Honour who."
Well, yeah.
That's a dagger to fans' hearts.
I said this when Honour left, that Jayde would be absolutely fine and that we wouldn't even know that she'd gone. And there we are. I like Honour who? Who's mentioned her? At which point have we gone, we really need Honour back? No, it ain't happened. And it won't. Immense.
I think it's always a testament as well. I think lots just put this in the chat that, when a winger has to swap sides, it's usually because they can't get past the fullback that they're up against, so they switch. There's always some maybe tactical thing in it if you want an inverted winger and you swap the sides because you want a left foot to move to the right or whatever. But Fowler swapped purely because of that, because she could not get past Jayde on that side. And to be fair, nobody could really on that side. I tweeted a video of the Barclays WSL to talk about earlier. No one was getting past it. She was blocking everything that was coming her way. Charlie, for yourself, how good do you think she was in this game? And what George just said there, that we're a better team going forward as well as defence, because she set up a few attacks as well on the right hand side.
Yeah. She also there was a couple of moments in the second half of the game where we were playing the long, just trying to get the ball away, weren't we? From about 80 minutes, we were just trying to get rid of the ball. And there was a moment where the ball was played over to our left at the halfway line, and bearing in mind she was playing right back, she was the player that got there, won the ball ahead of two City players that were trying to crowd her out. And I think that's what led to the chance when Grace Clinton then went on a bit of like a Maradona-esque mazy run. But it was that moment for me. I just turned around and looked at my mate and I said, that's it. That's what she's been all game. She's literally fought the entire game. I also thought from a defensive display, she tracked back brilliantly. She was really controlled. Nothing looks like stressful or last ditch, but she was also really good 1v1. So when Fowler was trying to stand her up, she just wasn't able to get past her. There was nothing rash about what she was doing. She was really calm. Also, just from a fan point of view, love her geeing up the crowd. Flipping, I think I WhatsApped you guys earlier, flipping love that video of her leading some sort of tribal chanting in the changing room. I've watched that about 10 or 15 times. Absolutely amazing. But like, she grew up a United fan, didn't she? So she knows what it means. She knows what it means to the fans. But she was brilliant. And if she can stay fit, and someone's just said in there that we desperately need a left back, Anna Sandberg exists. If those two can stay fit and play regularly, I think that'll be amazing for us, won't it? Historically, we've sort of been a little bit lopsided when it's come to the fullbacks and attacking outlet. Lots of people talking about her attacking outlet. Both of them on the pitch at the same time will be scary for the opposition, I think.
No, absolutely. I echo it. Well, I've kind of already spoiled my. She was my player in the match because I just think she was so just I said this. I wrote this in my piece a few weeks ago for the cutback, and it's going to, spoiler alert, I'm writing a piece on her that will go into the cutback article that comes out tomorrow. That she'll be mentioned in this as well, because I just fully believe we're a much better team and offers balance on the right hand side as well. The one thing I will say on that video, though, I'm not quite sure what the one boot thing is about. She's kind of got like one boot on, half a sock, and like a little bit of strapping on her right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that's about.
We just won at the Etihad. She can do what she wants. We're Man United. We'll do what we want. If we want to sing with one boot on and just a bit of strapping,
has anybody considered the fact, and it's going to be wild, maybe it's my age, I don't know, but has anyone considered the fact that she was getting herself ready, undressed as they do, and she'd taken her shoe and her sock off, and then somebody started doing something.
Probably
so
Melvin.
She just joined in, probably not thinking to herself, "Ooh, heck, I can't go on that. I ain't got my shoe on." Like, it was
definitely
Melvin. Barry, I think she was getting changed, and then Melvin started playing on what I can only think is an equipment or boot box, and Jayde thought, "Oh, I have just the chant for this," and as if by magic, off they popped.
Off they went.
I love that, and I love that the City players would have been able to hear that. That's equally scrumptious, isn't it? That's just lovely.
me and George were talking about it, so I said this to a few people. I was like, I love the fact that knowing the City players would have heard that straight after the game.
Who's the fullback that gave us the double V's last year?
Kasparai.
Her. I hope she heard it more than anyone else.
I wonder whether Chloe Kelly was in our dressing room as well. You never know. Maybe she was joining in the chat.
Probably on filming. Let me join. I've got my red headband. Let me join. It's fun in here. It's dead fun.
Is there any truth in the rumour? Because I know that Kerris been asking who was in the box. God. Is there any truth in the rumour that they'd just let Mary Fowler out of her pocket and spare their better?
Well, it depends on Wednesday, doesn't it? Might be back in there again on Wednesday. Depending on who starts for us. Well, and then. But there we go. Before I get on to Miyazawa, I'll quickly mention what sport is going on. I would go one further and say next Sunday, to be honest, because I said this to a few people walking out. It's all very well a good win at the Etihad. We've then got to go on a bit of a run now. We can't win at the Etihad, then draw to Brighton next Sunday, for example, because then it makes that result pointless. We've got to back this up now with we've got winnable games. Brighton at home, Spurs away. Spurs aren't in great form at the moment. They won at the weekend, by the way, without having a single shot on target. I don't quite know how that works.
The league game's the important one. Someone said to me before the game, would you rather win tonight? Obviously, you rather win all of your games, but would you rather win tonight or win in the quarterfinal of the Conti Cup and the league? Rather beat them in the league, for me. Who knows what's going to happen midweek? But you're right. That's what I was about to say. We need to not go and get tonked now against Brighton. We need to go and beat Brighton.
So we'll come back to that later in the week, but we do need to make a bit of a run of this, that's for sure. This won my award for comment of the show, though, from me personally, because I thought that was quite funny. Fair play to you, Brandon. That Dallo, I suppose, the Riviere. But there we go. Another player I wanted to mention, because she's on the poll as well, Hinata Miyazawa. We kind of spoke about her a little bit. I said on the preview that I wanted her to play in this game for this very reason, because I feel like we're a balanced midfield, which is there. Because she for me, is one of the few players we've got that under pressure. For me, she's the best player we've got under pressure like that, and in terms of controlling the midfield. Barra, I'll come to you first on this one, and then Charlie and Georgia just follow straight in, save me asking the same question again. How good do you think Hinny was in that midfield?
I think when you talk about Hinata Miyazawa, you just got to ask the question, Katie who? I'm joking, of course I wouldn't say that. It's a ridiculous thing to say. Just wanted to have a little bit of shock value, and it worked, because Charlie's literally just had a little mini heart attack there, thinking what's going on. Listen, she was superb, absolutely superb. And you called it at the weekend on Friday, Connor, when you was talking about how she played really well in the last few games, and having that opportunity to start was very important. Listen, she's done well. We were very good pressing. We were good in general in the midfield. I still think the midfield's not quite right. There's still something about it that needs to be fixed. But at this moment in time, I was joking, Michael. At this moment in time, she's done incredibly well. And I think it's beautiful when you can look at a midfield that could consist of players like Ella Toone, Grace Clinton, Hinata Miyazawa, the fact that we've got Emma Watson coming through as well. And you start looking at these players and you realise that actually there is a heck of a lot of talent. It's just how best can we use them, because I would consider all of them to be mainly attacking as opposed to sort of patrolling the central midfield and patrolling and controlling. And I don't necessarily know that they've quite got that at Manchester United at the moment. But yeah, listen, she was superb and absolutely deserved to be one of the top 4 players today.
Sorry, I know you said to come straight in there, but I was trying to be polite. That's what happened. So seamless. I think I said earlier, I think it's the most balanced we look is when at the moment when it's her and Janssen. That seems to be the best option, I think, as the midfield pairing. I agree with Barry. I still think we need more from the midfield pairing than we're getting. There's always going to be a bit of me that, thinks Janssen should be playing at centre back for us. Not that she's doing a bad job, but I feel like she should be playing at centre back. But obviously, Lad's gone. But you've got Simi Awujo, and again, it's whether you then take that next perceived risk of letting Simi Awujo be our holding midfielder. I think she's more than capable. But yeah, Miyazawa's brilliant. She never has like, I feel like at the end of every game, I leave and I go, oh, Miyazawa had a good game, didn't she? Like in the moment, you don't notice because everything's quite understated. She looks after the ball really well. I'd be really interested to see, I bet Con will be able to find it. I just feel like she plays the ball forwards all the time. She makes things happen. She moves it really quickly. And she's also, for someone so small, which is what she is, I think she's strong on the ball as well. I don't think she's muscled off, which is really good. It looks like complete mismatches sometimes when she's against the opposition, but she just looks after the ball really well. And I think, again, she's another one that should be starting on Sunday. I would go for not wholesale, but substantial changes on Wednesday against what will still be a semi-strong City side. Like they'll be looking at the Conti Cup to win it, Man City, I'm sure. To give Awuja a run out and players like that, get Grace Clinton match fit again, so get her play those two. But Miyazawa is another one that needs to be playing on Sunday, I think.
Yeah, I agree with. Sorry, I forgot we were just going straight in then. No, completely echo everything that's been said. I think Miyazawa she's such a positive midfielder. You know, similar to what Charlie said. You know, we're going forward, creating chances. She's her technical ability on the ball. Her control is so tight in. You know, when there's players crowding her, you know, it just seems to stick to her feet a little bit, and then even then still manages to find the forward ball. You know, we're not going backwards and having to sort of restart the attacking phase again. But I was, you know, from what we've seen from her in her cameos, really, you know, I know she had that injury when we first brought her, but since then, it's like Charlie said, you know, she doesn't necessarily grab the headlines. She's not normally a player that, you know, we're talking about mid-game, but, you know, reflecting after the game, it's like, oh yeah, Miyazawa was good again today. Like she seems to hold a compact midfield and deal with the pressure really well. You know, like Charlie said again, doesn't get knocked off on the ball, you know, stands well on her own 2 feet within the midfield. And I think her and Toone, I think, pair quite nicely together.
Sorry, I don't know why. But no, I agree. And I think, you know, what Shane's put there about, you know, she's very press resistant, so many Japanese players are. And I think that's why I wanted her in the team, because we needed players like that to bring, to keep hold of the ball. As we mentioned, she doesn't get knocked off the ball easy, but also to play the ball we had an outlet. And I think now, you know, if I'm her, I said this on the preview, that Grace for me has got to earn that spot back. You know, Grace has got to come on and play well enough to knock Hinny out of that position. I don't want to see just now Hinny's had this great couple of games, Grace just walks straight back in. That's not how it should work for me. You know, it should be that Grace has to earn it, like any other player has to do. You know, if they go out of the squad, they've got to come back in and earn that spot. So for me, Hinny should be continuing to start, you know, moving forward, and, you know, whatever happens from there. But yeah, she was exceptional. I thought, you know, again, a lot of people have already said it. She goes under the radar a lot because she's not the flashiest player. She's not going to score you worldy goals like Toone does, or she's not like this big destroyer in the midfield like Janssen potentially was, and, you know, like a skillful kind of player that you see, albeit, you know, the first goal you know, would argue that. So yeah, for me, she's unbelievable and rightfully on the poll as well. Right, I'm going to come to player of the match, and I know that we haven't really spoken about Fallon. She is also on the poll, but I'll let you kind of do that as we go around player of the match and give who you think deserves that accolade. So if you're in the chat, you've got about, I'll say 3 minutes by the time we get around the panel to give your vote if you haven't already. Georgia, so come to you first. And who was your player of the match? And a quick word on Fallon as well.
Jayde was my player of the match. I thought she was absolutely standout. You know, I gave her flowers when I spoke about her, but yeah, phenomenal performance. And 2028 doesn't seem long enough. I hope we've got her for her entire career on our right-hand side. No, but a word on Fallon. She yesterday made really important stops. There was that one that was down the opposite to the away end, the fingertip save, which was unbelievably important at 4-2 to not let City then regain that momentum and, you know, potentially even it up. Incredible reaction save. And week in and week out, Fallon makes these incredible stops to keep us in the game. You know, she keep her, obviously along with the defence as well, but makes these saves and then lets our forwards and attackers go. And that is, well, it's like the saying goes, forwards when you game. That's not the saying. It's not about defensive winning your championships, but I've just forgotten it. Something along them lines.
I can't. You've made me forget what it is now.
At what point did you know? At what point did you realise you didn't remember what that was? And you
As soon as I said it, as soon as I started it, I was like, oh.
Was it like attackers win you games, defences win you
titles?
Yeah, it's something along them lines.
That was one.
But no, phenomenal.
Yeah,
Charlie.
She I thought she was great again. I thought, that save against Mary Fowler was brilliant. I thought she made a couple more before that were important. But that one was key because I think if they'd got the third one, tails would have been up. There was still 10 or so minutes left, I think, with the 8 minutes of injury time that were added on when it should have been 6. And there was no reason to add on any additional 2 minutes in extra time because nothing had happened officiating. I thought she was great. I also think she is growing into a bit of a leadership role. How she spoke at the end of the game, I thought was brilliant as well. She's so about the team. She's not about the plaudits. She always pushes that onto the players. Like when her and Toone were being interviewed, they asked Toone some questions and they went to Fallon to speak to her about her performance. And she was just like, no, the team. Toone scored a hat-trick. Let's focus on her. So she's very much sort of a leadership role, I think, as well. But from a on the pitch point of view, I thought her kicking was better, which it needed to be. But I thought her kicking from ground was much better than it had been. But yeah, she's fab, isn't she? We talked about maybe that one slight error, but it stands out because she's just been tremendous. And I think already she is in with a shout to be our player of the season if it continues the way it is with her. But again, caveat that with I didn't vote for her for player of the match. I also gave it to Jayde. I felt like Toone would get loads of votes, but I just thought Jayde's all-round performance and again looked like a leader on the pitch against City for a player that's so young. So I went for her. I thought what she did defensively from minute 1 to minute 98 can't be underestimated. She was really, really good. Comfortably my player of the match.
Yeah, I think you're right to mention that with Fallon. Kind of off the bit there, her interview with Toone on Sky after the game, as you mentioned, was brilliant as well in the way that she speaks about it. And just Jen, we've seen it a few times after the Villa game. Obviously, I know we drew that at home, but straight away bigging up Gabby George for how she played in that one. She, like you said, she's very much about bigging the team and getting the team in. So even yesterday, when the players came over, she's never one. She doesn't go to the front. She doesn't do any of that kind of thing. She kind of just stands away, stands at the back, and kind of just lets the other players take that in. Barry, come to you then. Your player of the match and why, and again, just a little bit of word on Fallon on there.
Just before I give you that, I just want to double check. Do you understand this? Out of the black, into the red. There's nothing in this game for 2 in a bed.
That's gone straight over my head. I got no idea.
Can't beat a bit of bully. Can't beat a bit of bully. That was bullseye. Yeah, I knew you wouldn't get it, but
I've seen that. I know what that is.
Yeah,
I didn't realise that's what it was from.
You've not seen Bullseye with Jim Bowen?
Yeah. Well,
you have seen that.
Bits of it, yeah.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. That's what we get it for anyway. Just intrigued by it. I sort of like, I need to check that, see if Bullseye is something he would be into. Good stuff. Listen, we spoke about Hilly and Jayde. Don't need to speak about them anymore. I gave it to Fallon purely because I was very impressed with the way she kept the scoreline down when they had a few good attacks. There was one towards the end of the second half. Could have potentially sparked a little bit of a revival, but very low down to her right there for Mary Fowler. That was a very good one. A couple of saves in the first half as well, which was probably vital. We said it would be bad if we'd have gone in 3-0. Imagine if we'd have got in 4-3 down. That would have been even worse. So, yeah, I think I gave it to her purely because it's interesting. Charlie mentioning, that Fallon could be our player of the season. She's still not won a player of the match award for us yet on this channel. I would just find it absolutely hilarious if she goes on to win player of the season, but she didn't even win a player of the match award, and that would say just
Well,
how high the standards are that she set herself.
Yeah.
We just look at that as it being normal. But if you were asking me, like genuinely, without me just going and letting my heart rule my head, Ella Toone, you know, she would have, if I was given a man of the match award at the end of the match, that's who you would have given it to, because, you know, without her, we don't necessarily get those goals. Her work rate, everything that she did, everything that we said at the start of the show had to be.
No, all good points. Well, mate, I apologize. I was trying to get. I sort of ended the poll, and it's done. YouTube's done that thing again, where I can't actually see what the result was. All I know is that Toone won on 67%. As for the rest of the votes, I can't actually see them. So, can someone in the chat let me know what the rest of them were? I know Toone definitely won it on 67. That's as far as I got.
So Ella Toone 67%, Sonata Miyazawa 15%, Jayde Riviere 13%, and Fallon tullis-joyce 4%.
Thank you very much.
Lovely.
Look at it. There we go. Oh, and Imaris put it in the chat as well. Brilliant. So there we go. Ella Toone did. But to be fair, I thought, and not that, like we said before, anyone on that poll could have deservedly won it. I kind of had a feeling that Toone would, and deserves as well. I think that's her first one this season for us on here. As you mentioned, Fallon's never won one, but yeah. Yes, see, I know these phrases. And everything else from good old Warza. Right, we're gonna have to quickly round the show because I'm conscious of time. Where we've already done 1 hour 20. But what has happened in the chat in the last kind of 5 minutes or so? I'll start some of these comments very quickly. Lee said at home it was a bit quiet. I saw some teens doing a mock GCSE exam. I've never seen that before in football ground. That's something quite new. But this in the last 5 minutes, it's all about Chloe Kelly. And Sporty did start this off 2 minutes into the show. What's the reaction to the Kelly rumour? Now, as people know, I'm getting the blame for this because on the last show, we spoke about it a little bit, and a little peek behind the curtain. That was based off a very, very loose rumour that I'd heard that I thought nothing of. So I thought I'd tweet the poll out. 67% of fans said that they would take Chloe Kelly at United. That was after 1,000 votes, I think it was, or it was about 900 and something votes. So 900 people voted on that. 67% said that they would take her at United. I'm fully getting the blame here. And then obviously the story broke yesterday that Manchester United want Chloe Kelly on loan until the summer. And everything else. So there's obviously a lot of people asking whether it's true, and lots saying I hope it's not. And yeah, so should we just quickly go around the panel and give brief thoughts on this one, and I'll kind of end it off with with my little bit on it at the end. Georgia, you were, well, I know how you feel because I rang you on the way up to the game yesterday to tell you that this was out. What do you make of this? Do you want it to happen? Do you not? Can you see the logic in it? What's your thoughts all around this one?
I would hate to see Chloe Kelly in a Manchester United top. I think, yeah, I'm not Chloe Kelly's biggest fan. Never have been. The shushing and the cupping of the ear at the Stretford end in the last derby really did that for me. But no, in it, looking at it purely from if I take my personal opinion on Chloe Kelly out of it, for me, she's obviously wanting to leave City for game time. I don't think she starts over any of our current wingers, to be honest. I think Mallard's better. I think Celine's better. I think Jace is better. I think Galton's better. So for me, she comes in as 5th choice winger. And if it's on loan, I don't really see what the point is. For me, yeah, I hope there is no truth in that rumour, to be honest. Not one for me that I would be excited for if it happened.
I mean, Charlie, George has made the point there. She's leaving City for game time. And I made this point last week, and I said this on a TikTok. For me, she's not going to get... If she's coming... I'm going to say my piece at the end. What do you think on it in terms of your thoughts when you saw that coming out?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because, like, wingers isn't... I don't know. I mean, arguably, we're not sure anywhere, I suppose. Like, she can play as a number 9, can't she? Like, but then the thing that is strange about it is the loan thing. She doesn't seem the sort of player that you get in for 6 months or less. 4 months. It'll be 4 months, won't it? Like I said, there's no denying the fact she's a good player. Like, she's won the Euros. She was an important player for England winning the Euros and getting so far in the World Cup. So she's a good footballer. But it's just strange. And I would also question getting in a player that's not played for their club really all season, and her just coming in and taking the place of our wingers that put in the performance that they put in last night. And you look at Slim, you look at Muzzy Bizzett. She doesn't deserve to move down the pecking order at all. Neither does Jace. My worry is what it would do for the harmony amongst the group, was from that point of view, for someone to come in for 4 months and who's not played and take someone else's place, either in the squad or on the bench. Weird. And also, I've got to be honest, from her point of view, are you trusting as Chloe Kelly? If you're Chloe Kelly, are you looking at Mark Skinner and going, I'm going to play every game for 4 months here, lads, and then I'm going to be playing for England? Probably not either, from an individual player perspective. All just very odd to me. I wonder if they're trying to just drive interest elsewhere, and we're a convenient name to be dropping in there, as is the norm when it comes to transfers across the footballing world. Let's say United are interested. Let's get some traction. Don't know.
I'll come back to my thoughts on that as well in a second. Barry, we spoke about this on Friday, so I can't imagine you've got too much more to add. You said no at the time. I'm assuming that hasn't changed.
Yeah, well, we've had these conversations many times. My opinion very rarely changes unless I see something that informs my opinion otherwise. Hence why I held on so long supporting he who shall not be named at this moment. But Chloe Kelly, listen, she scored arguably the most important goal in English football history, certainly in terms of the ladies. She did. And as a result, she's been living off the back of that toe poke for, I would say, 4 or 5 years now. And it was a toe poke. To be clear, I think I could have scored it. Bearing in mind, we were just talking about my levels, being unable to do what Hinny did. I think I probably could have. Granted, she's a lot taller than me, so maybe I'm about to stretch more. Might have hurt. But I think I probably could. Listen, she scored, I think, 31 goals in 109 games for Manchester City. And I would argue that that is not of a reasonable enough standard to put her above any of the wingers that we've got at the moment, as Georgia said. And I think that's the main one. So I think really I will mic drop at this moment by saying that whilst I was doing this research, I found that when she was growing up, her idol was Bobby Zamora. And I think that says everything it needs to say.
Yeah, that's quite something, actually. I didn't know that. But there we go. Yeah, I will just quickly say, James, your comment really did make me laugh about taking Rusha Littlejohn on a 4-month loan. That did make me laugh. Obviously, a lot of people are asking whether it's true, whether it's this kind of thing. I guess I can say it. Like I said, I tweeted that poll hearing a loose-ish kind of rumor on it. I think from what I understand of it, the story is essentially true to a point, but I don't think it's as close as people might think it is. So I really don't know. I know people want me to say whether it's happening or not. I really don't know, to be honest, if it's happening or not. It could very well happen, is probably what I'm leaning towards, because I do believe the interest is real. I think it's being pushed a little bit from her and her people, if I'm being totally honest, because clearly she wants out of City, so it makes sense. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I will. If she turns up in the United shirt, you've got to support her like you do every other player, and I hope she does well if that does happen. I would find it difficult, though. And I think someone said, it was either Leisha or Ella, apologies. Someone put it in the chat earlier on saying, be a bit conflicted if she scored. And I would feel a little bit like that, almost just like happy, but no, I don't know. I would find it tough to get, especially alone. And someone did, I apologize, I should have started this comment about we've got to take into consideration that Jace might be out for a little while. That is, I don't know this, but that is my assumption as to why we're potentially looking at a loan, is that maybe Jace has been given longer than we think away from the squad, and we're looking at potentially a winger to cover that on a short-term thing. Kelly wants out of a club. But if I'm City, I'm not. I think I can't remember. It might have been Flo and Jesse. Actually, I was listening to Counter Press earlier, and they were talking about this. That why would City agree to this? City have got to agree to a loan. We've just overtaken them in the league. We're direct rivals with them. Why would they want to? You could argue strengthen United by giving us one of their players. It doesn't make sense. So I'm like I said, I don't know whether it's going to happen or not. But if I'm City, I'm just rejecting it because why would they accept it? They're going to gain nothing from it because Kelly's going to leave in 6 months' time anyway on a free contract. So it just makes no sense. So I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But I'm leaning towards I hope it doesn't because I just don't think it doesn't suit us. I agree with Charlie. I worry a little bit what that would do to the rest of the squad. I don't think it suits her because I don't think she's going to play as much as she wants. It doesn't help City. It doesn't help anyone. I don't think so. The interest is real. But I don't think it's as...
Is it Agent Kelly? Is she being sent in there to try and disrupt the harmony in the dressing room? Oh, how's that one? Oh, you could do a whole new show on that, can't you?
Yeah, and I know me and Puzzling Time spoke about this yesterday because I do agree with him actually in terms of, when you do have to take a little bit away. But for me personally, I'm not a fan of direct. We could look at Greenwood, for example. She went via another club to get to City. We still don't like her for that. For me, I can never get over you shouldn't be going direct rival to rival. City to United, Arsenal to Spurs, Spurs to Arsenal, Arsenal to Chelsea. Just keep that for me separate. And yeah, no, not for me. But there we go. Like I said, we're prepared if she does sign. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. What we've got 10 days left of the transfer window, or is it 11? To see if any deals get done. And it might also depend on who City get in. I know people have mentioned Hewley Brand as well. That City are potentially looking at as well. So maybe if they get that over the line, they might need to get Kelly out to kind of a one in, one out thing. But other than that, I don't know. Obviously, a lot of people asking anyone else. I don't think so. I've said this a couple of times on shows. A lot of our targets, I think, are for the summer. So at the moment, I just don't see anything else happening. Unless a player becomes available at short-term notice and we can get in there. But I don't think so at the minute, if I'm being totally honest.
Mas Pacheco?
Well, I would still take that deal. Well, no, but then, no, would I now? Because we've now got 3 fullbacks when Hannah's back. Or, well, 3 left-backs, sorry. And Jess currently out on loan. 4 left backs. We don't need another one. So maybe I'd let that slip a little bit. That's a player I do want, though. Jayde Rose. And not just us. She's probably got half of Europe looking at her right now. Now she's coming to the end of her college time over there as well. So, yeah, that's a player that I do want. But again, one to keep an eye on, I think. Maybe I should. This is what I got to do now, I think. Start tweeting that players are either not coming to United or stick some polls out there into who we might want.
To be fair, I don't think that I've got to try and salvage your reputation here because people making it sound like you just tweet absolute pony stuff. I don't think you ever actually tweeted that she's not coming to Man United. I think you just tweeted a poll out having said you wouldn't take her. So I think what we need to do actually is we're sending the wrong energy out into the universe. This whole discussion should have been, we don't want Jill Brand. She's absolutely ridiculous. What a crap player. We don't want her. Would you take her? And then you need to do a poll. TJ needs to be in the minority of that discussion on here. Otherwise, it's not the same thing. It's like trying to get Back to the Future sorted out. You're not going to get this. But it has to be the exact right moment. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
I agree with you. But I can't believe this. The exact opposite. Shocking.
Yeah, reliable.
To be fair, Romana's been very hit and miss recently, but we'll see. Anyway, we should probably wrap it up there. We've been going for an hour and 33 odd minutes, which is a long time, and well over 100 of you watching for the whole show. So I appreciate all of you that are still here watching us after all this time. As Keris said, she's gone and had her tea, and we're still like, I need to go sort my tea because I'm starving now. I mean, not throughout the whole day, but here we are. But Connor has us. What's going on here? Oh, the Romano thing. Anyway, right, we'll wrap it up because we'll be going all night. Appreciate all of your comments and everything else. Make sure you're liking this video and subscribing if you haven't already. As I said, there will be a show tomorrow. Shall I say it on it? I will say it. Well, because Keris is now in it, and she did say it earlier, a new host for the channel. Keris is going to be leading this one tomorrow, so make sure you come back tomorrow, show us some love on that show as well.
Can you just put her comment back up again?
Which one? The T one?
Yeah. Because it actually says Jesus went and had my tea. That doesn't feel very Christian. Can't go nicking people's tea, surely. It's outrageous. That's disgusting.
I didn't read it like that.
That is not on. That is not charitable, guys. Come on now, give it back.
So make sure you come back tomorrow, 7 o'clock usual time for that show as well. If you're not already following the Twitter/X account, if you could, that'd be greatly appreciated. I think we're now 50 followers off 10k, so that'd be greatly appreciated if you could drop us a follow on there. Every other social, Instagram, TikTok, and everything else is all for United WFC. As I said earlier, make sure you like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. It's greatly appreciated. Love all of you in the chat. Thank you for these three for joining us on this Monday evening to chat through the game. See you guys in the next one.